Hi guys, it's Mataira from the Amazon, and it's the 9th of April 2024. And I want to talk about a little episode that I had in my life 17 years ago when I first came to South America. I knew that I had been called to come to South America, and I had to meet up with people or beings from Lemuria, spirits from Lemuria, and medicine plants. It was not all very clear to me at the time, but I certainly tried. And I was looking for a guide because I knew that I had to go up north. At the time I was in Bolivia. My first stop had to be in La Paz, Bolivia, and that's where I met some important contacts. Most of all, Don Pedro, that was very helpful to me, and he spoke English, which was incredibly helpful. And he brought me in touch with different shamans, and he took me to different hotels. They had 4 hotels in different places, which was extremely interesting, and that's where I did my first ceremonies with the plant medicine. Through Peru, I got in touch with Angel Buenaventura, who was my master in the end. He became my master in teaching medicine plants. He died in 2012, which was sad, but he had lived his life exactly how he wanted to, so I'm sure he was feeling okay about it. In August 2006, I went back to Australia, and I organized with my husband that we would separate and divide the house, which he gave me a part of it. He took another loan, and that helped me to go back to South America and set up and eventually buy my house in the Amazon, where I'm still here 17 years later. So in early 2007 I went back to Lake Titicaca, where my master Angel Buenaventura lived, and he was very excited. He was a painter also, and he was always looking to make authentic South American native paintings, and paintings of plant medicine and different medicinal energies. So he was very excited because he said he had found the quintessential Inca face, and he showed me photos of it, of this person, which he later on he used these photos for his paintings. And that was Aquí, but I didn't know his name at the time. Then I went to Cusco, and in Cusco I saw the guy on the street, and I said, "I've got photos of you," and he said he didn't believe it. And I showed him the photos that I had, and he wanted some of them, and I gave them to him. I printed them out for him. I spent a few months in Cusco, and we got to know each other, and it became quite a relationship. He was very young, and I was very old. But he undertook to take me to Iquitos, where I felt I had to go, and to help me buy my house, which he did. So in about April, which is on April 17 years ago, he started taking me to Iquitos, and we actually did find a house, and I bought it. And then he, after a few months there, he wanted to leave, and he started to, I went with him, and we made a huge trip across Peru, going from place to place. And I made some photos of it on the Google Maps. Aku wanted to do something very special. He wanted to take a medicine journey, a ceremony with ayahuasca up in a rainforest with an incredible waterfall. We went to Uchiza, which is where actually Aku had spent part of his childhood growing up, and had some pretty horrible experiences. This is what he showed to me. And we went in the mountains, walking there to find where he had lived and where his father had worked with coca. They were coca workers. And that was in the time that if you worked with coca, you had to be very tough because they were all narcos. There was work with the narcos. So that's what his father had done. And his father had been very cruel with him too. But he could be pretty hard himself. That's what he probably had learned there. And was not an easy person to be with. But he had a lot of energy, and I'm still trying to process what went on there. I took a lot of photos because Aku really enjoyed having photos taken of him. He was almost illiterate with writing and reading. He had not been able to go to school, or he hadn't enjoyed it or hadn't wanted it. I'm not sure. Maybe they didn't have the money to do it at the time. And he was very expressive with his words and actions and gestures. And he often wanted me to take photos of him. It was like he was acting out his life and being an actor on the stage. Aku died 1 year after he left me, and it had quite a profound effect on me. I found it very difficult, and even though we were not together anymore. He died in a swimming accident in a very wild river. He just had some really strange interference in my recording. And I had to wipe quite a bit of it because it was darker and there was a sound of someone sleeping or breathing or beings here that are not here. There's nobody here in my house, at least not in the physical way. So I'm not sure what that is, but I still want to finish the video. I still want to talk about it. Yeah, Aku had a special thing in mind. He wanted to go and do a ceremony in the jungle, in the forest, at the place of a big waterfall. And first of all, we had to get the ayahuasca cooked, and he found out a shaman, an older man who had cooked for us ayahuasca. And when we paid him the next day, he was extremely drunk. I think he didn't use the proper plants. He might have had ayahuasca, I think, but he didn't really have chacruna, I believe. So he used something else, which was not entirely great for me. But we were doing all this in trust, and Aku had the feeling it had to happen, it had to work out, so that's what we did. The son of the shaman, who was a man in his 50s, he came with us, and he was going to go into the forest with us. We found out where the real waterfall was. It was an incredible place, and we had to walk a long way because we couldn't get a car. We went with a car on the main road, and then we turned off, and there was no car, so we started walking, and we walked about 7 hours. But I think these days there's a better infrastructure, and you can actually get to the place and walk in about an hour. That's what they say on the guides, maps. But at that time it was much more difficult, and we had to cross rivers and creeks, so it was pretty full on. But we walked, and the last house it was near a coffee farm, and at that house we spoke to the guardians of the place, or the people who looked after it a bit, and they I think they knew the shaman, and the shaman said he was going to do the work there with us, and he was being responsible for it, and so they allowed us to go there and do the ceremony. So we walked in, and there was a lot of flies and a lot of slippery rocks and a lot of moisture in the ground, and it was a very narrow path. But when we finally got through the whole difficulty, it was absolutely worth it. It was so beautiful. The waterfall is called Velo de Plata, which means veil of silver or silvery veil, and it's very, very high, one of the highest in Peru, and so it was really worth it. We did the ceremony. We made a beautiful little altar for Pachamama on the stones there with flowers and little things we had collected, and the shaman had brought a few things as well. And then we took a little bit of medicine. I'm very, very sensitive to it, and I had a very strong effect. I only asked for a very small amount, which I did, but I still had a very strong effect. And then we went to the little tent that had been set up, and we stayed there for the whole night, apart from a few little toilet stops and stuff. But I looked out over the rim of the mountain, and first of all I saw angels, and then I saw dragons, and then I lost consciousness. And I really struggled with my consciousness during the night, and thank God Aku was there. I was protected, but it's not something I would recommend to anybody to do that sort of thing. Sounds very romantic, but I think it was crazy. It was a crazy thing to do. Anyway, I didn't feel that I had a really amazing ceremony because I was so bombed out, and I struggled to stay connected to the physical world. I was basically going out of my body, and Aku had to kind of touch me and hold me close and kiss me and tell me to not let go, and that really, really helped. And so I came through. Could have been worse. So we finished the journey, and in the morning it was extremely beautiful. The light was very nice, and we had some breakfast, and we made a fire, and we went for a walk around the waterfall itself. And Aku made some music there, and with the shaman they were together and did some singing and a little bit more connecting with the nature there. And I tried to take photos of it. It was such a large vista that it was very difficult to get all of it in the panorama, unless you had some kind of one of those little robot flying things. But I don't have one of those, and I had a very simple camera at the time. So that's what I did. We walked back out, and we found an old truck that was happy to pick us up and take us back to the main road, which was a huge help. So we didn't have to walk as long as we did on the way in. And then after that, Aku and I went traveling to Ayacucho, where he met the gringa and went looking for his family. And we basically split up. And then I went up through to Bolivia, where I had my book printed about the marine vortex. I had to pick up copies, and I had to talk about it with the person who had done the printing. So that's how that worked out. And another strange thing that happened was Aku took me walking in the coca fields before we went to the waterfall. And that was the coca fields where his father had worked and where his family had worked, and he thought that one of his brothers was still there. And he went looking for his family, and he went looking for the place where they used to live, and I think he found it, and he collected all the rubbish and burnt it. He felt that he had to clean up the leftovers of his family. It was quite an interesting ceremony. And he took a photo of me in a coca field, which was apparently, someone later on said that I could have been shot on sight if someone had seen a white person there. But it all worked out fine. Aku just lived on the edge, and that's how he died, on the edge, just being too dangerous. So he took a photo of me in this coca field, and I didn't realize, but about 6 months later, I looked through the photos that I had done, and I saw a drawing that I had done 2 years before, and that drawing was exactly the same as that photo. So today is another day, and I'm going to finish off with this video and show that there was another thing that still fits into the story, and that is the story of Angel's painting. And I want to indicate here that Angel actually painted Aquí, sitting basically in front of the waterfall, and that the waterfall is represented by the old man with the water running down his face. And also between the two is a tree which is very much like the tree that I took a photo of, that I saw as quite remarkable tree with the curly branches. So it's interesting because Angel didn't know that we went there. I never told him about it, and I actually saw the picture after he died, so it's quite curious. I saw it on his Facebook page, and I saw that he had made a photo of it and posted it. But to me it indicates exactly what was to do with that ceremony. And also it indicates something about the eagle and the condor, which was a strong theme for Angel, where he felt that the eagle and the condor, the native tribes of the north and the south, would come together and have a ceremony and actually make peace or connect themselves. So there would be more of a strong, unified movement of the native people to recover their connection with Pachamama and help her to move into the next phase, or Gaia, or whatever you want to call her, Sophia. So that's all I wanted to say about it. It's another curious thing that he actually tuned into it without actually hearing about it or knowing. He didn't know where I was and that we had that ceremony. So God bless, thank you for watching, and wishing you all the best. Take care.